Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is where we ended yesterday, right? And then I told you to go ahead and fill in the rest of your ordered pairs because we talked about how to know where the stuff was positive and negative, right? So hopefully you actually did that. If you didn't, then be doing that right now, okay? Because you should be able to fill in the ordered pairs, knowing that the numbers are the same, but the signs, the SIGNs, change depending on the quadrant, okay? If you're having to fill that out right now, I'll give you a second, but last period, I didn't get that far yesterday because we had that fire drill, and then I assumed I said something to them that I didn't, and now I'm wondering if I even said it to y'all. When we looked at these second quadrant angles, did we talk about the fact that the numerator is one less than the denominator? Okay, yeah, and that here it's one more, okay? So if you think about just like 3/4 as a fraction, that's not even one yet, right? So that means if it's 3/4, this is basically one. You just kind of take all the pies out. So if it's 3/4, it has to be in the second quadrant because I haven't even made it to one yet, right? So different ways you can kind of remember what's what, but figure out a way that it makes sense to yourself. But again, I say you start from the horizontal and you either go back one or forwards one. Now somebody had a question earlier today. I was trying to explain to him why we knew 7 pi-4 was in the fourth quadrant, but instead of going back one, he was trying to count them differently. And he was like, well, what is this one? Because we were looking at that blank circle outside. And I said, well, that's a pi-6 angle. We don't care about it when we're looking at pi-4. But he felt like he needed to count that. And so then when I showed him this, it made a little bit more sense. Because it does kind of seem like we're skipping stuff, right? Like I go from pi-6 to 5 pi-6. Like, where are all the rest of them, right? So if we think about pi-4, that's the easiest one to look at first. This is like 1 pi-4. If I go another pi-4, this is 2 pi-4, but it reduces to pi-halves, right? Then this makes it 3 pi-4. Then that makes this 4 pi-4, reduces to 1. 5 pi-4, 6 pi-4 reduces to 3 pi-halves, right? 7 pi-4, 8 pi-4. So they're actually all in there. They're just disguised as other ones. Same thing with pi-6. Okay, remember that's 30, right? So if I'm here, this is 30, 60, 90, right? So pi-6, 2 pi-6, which is pi-thirds, 3 pi-6, which is pi-halves, 4 pi-6, and so forth and so on. So they're really there, but you don't want to have to count that way. If you count from the horizontal, it makes it a whole lot easier. Okay, but I just thought that might clear something up for some people, hopefully. All right, so then hopefully you have all of your ordered pairs written down. This is what it should look like when you are done, right? So we know that in the second quadrant there, all our x values are negative because that's what we've known about the second quadrant for a long, long time, right? Third quadrant, positive, or they're both negative, I'm sorry. And then fourth quadrant, we have positive x, negative y, right? Are you feeling better about this stuff than you thought you would at this point, right? I think sometimes we're a little intimidated when we start because you hear people, if you mention the unit circle to, people from that, they're like, oh, but remember, you take that with a grain of salt. Who's saying that? The people that never learned it and never paid attention, or, what? But most of them learned it pretty well and can handle it just fine. Okay, are we all good on that? All right, so now I want you to flip over. You have a blank circle, right? I want you to start by just putting the first quadrant angles in. So without looking at anything, without looking at your other paper, without help from your neighbor, anything. Oh yeah, you might not be flipping it over. It depends on where it is. But it's the other blank circle in the blue on the blue paper. Just put in the degrees for the first quadrant. Not the degrees, I'm so sorry. The radians, so that I want to make sure you got these right. It was a very good job at the door for the first day of me out there quizzing you on that stuff. I was a little disappointed in how many of you didn't use the hand trick. Some of you, I don't think needed to, but some of you were struggling and didn't even bother to try to do the hand trick. You really need to learn that. All right, so check your first quadrant angles. If you agree with me, are we all good? Are we experts on the first quadrant? Then again, without looking at anything or having anybody help you, fill in the rest of the angles, just the angles. once you're done with it, but not until you're done, and I know you're still writing, not rushing anybody, because some of us write slower than others, that's okay. You can check yourself up here. Pay attention to all the patterns that are there, how the pi 6 angles are closest to the x-axis, pi thirds of the y-axis. I left the highlighters on the table for now in case you wanted to highlight anything else. But how are we feeling about the angles? We good? Okay. So remember, tomorrow, your quiz tomorrow is just this. First quadrant. You put in your angles and you put in your ordered pairs, and that's all you got to do tomorrow, right? We're all going to make hundreds on that. Yep. Okay. So now that you have this, I want you first quadrant only, without looking at anything, trying to get it out of your little brains and not talking to anybody. Just write your tangent values. Write the tangent values to the best of your ability. Don't look at me like that. I'm going to do mine off camera here. Why are you on that paper? We're not on that paper. Okay, I started to write them and then I decided I wanted to talk about it again. So remember, these two here, I've got 0, 1, and 1, 0. This ordered pair is 0, 1. So if I put y over x, that's undefined, right? This one is 1, 0. So if I put 0 over 1, that is 0. Then for pi fourths, the x and y value are the same, so that is 1. Pi thirds has 1, 3, so this is the square root of 3. Pi 6, that takes 2 3s, so it's a square root of 3 over 3. Okay, everybody good so far? All right, so let's talk a little bit more here before we get the rest of them in there. Tell me about, in the first quadrant, actually, let's do that on this side. Might be better. Okay. This isn't where I have the rest of them filled out. I don't even know what I did with that now. Here we go. Okay, whatever. We'll use this one. Okay, so we have this here, right? So in the first quadrant, sine and cosine are both positive, right? And what does that mean for our tangent value? What would that be then? Positive also, yes. Okay, so that means that all of my trig values are positive in the first quadrant. In the second quadrant, which one is negative? Cosine or sine? Cosine, so sine is positive. What does that mean for tangent? What would tangent be? Be negative, because we're going to put y over x and it'd be positive over negative, right? So of the three, the only positive one in the second quadrant is sine. So we're going to put sine right here. Okay. Then in the third quadrant, sine and cosine are both negative. So what does that mean for tangent? Positive. So that means tangent's positive here. What would be true about tangent in the fourth quadrant? It'd be negative. So the only positive one in the fourth quadrant is cosine. Okay. So if I was to ask you, which right now, again, this is not going to be on the quiz tomorrow. Tomorrow at the door, I'm going to add in tangent. I'm not going to add in the rest of the circle yet because I want you to have time to practice that stuff. But if you ask me, what is the sine of 5 pi thirds, right? I don't want to have to write out the whole circle. So here's what goes through my mind. First of all, the reference angle is pi thirds. So I could refer to it as a pi thirds angle. So since it is a pi thirds angle, and I know from my hand trick, right, pi thirds, my sine value would be square root of 3 over 2, right? Then I say, all right, but that's 5 pi thirds. That's in the fourth quadrant. And in the fourth quadrant, cosine is the only one that's positive. That means my answer is a negative square root of 3 over 2. You see how there's like 3 things to think through? And the more you do it, the quicker that will go. I mean, it's not going to take you a minute to explain it out. But you think, what's true about the reference, use your reference angle so you can get, is it 1/2 square root of 3 over 2, what? Figure out what quadrant you're in, and then from there, if it's positive or negative. And people remember that different ways, like just knowing that, okay, well, in the second quadrant, if I want a cosine value, I know that's the x, and x is always negative in the second quadrant. That's totally fine. Or you can remember it this way. And there's a little trick kind of thing for this too. Remember that the A means all, so they're all positive. Second quadrant, sine is positive. Third quadrant is tangent. Fourth quadrant is cosine. So to remember that, you start in quadrant 1, and this is all students take calculus. So you can think about that, so that once I get to, okay, C goes with the fourth quadrant, that means cosine is the only positive one. So if I have so the cosine of pi thirds and the cosine of 5 pi thirds, exact same thing, because they're both positive. Okay, does that make sense to you? Okay, and that's kind of how, and I'm going to help you step that around your brain, and I'll see you like looking around in circles, things like that. Okay, so with that said, we'll flip this back over, although I have, there we go, different papers here. Or not flip it over, whatever, if yours is open. But since we have this, which quadrant, besides the first one, is tangent positive in? Oh, wait, did you finish the angles? I had y'all write out, did I have you write out the rest of the angles? I did, and we already did the first tangent values. Oh my God, I lost my paper, hang on. There it is. This is what I'm actually looking for. Thank you very much. Besides the first quadrant, which quadrant is tangent positive in? Third. Okay. So pi 6, this is a pi 6th angle. So that means that's a square root of 3 over 3, and it's positive. This is 1, and this is a 3, so that's a square root of 3, and I know that it's positive. And then notice this about the angles. 7 pi 6th and pi 6th directly across from each other. Right? It's like drawing a diameter. Same thing for all of them, right? So if this is square root of 3 over 3, so is this. The sign might be different depending on the function, but the absolute value of the numbers is the same. This right here, what is this ordered pair here? Negative 1, 0. We cannot afford to get that wrong. Negative 1, 0. So if I put y over x and put 0 over negative 1, what does that give me? What is 0 over negative 1? 0. You need 0? Yeah, 0. And so it's the same as the one that's right across from it, right? This is 0, negative 1. So I'd put negative 1 over 0. What would that be? Undefined, which is the same as the one directly across from it, right? So now, can you fill in the rest of your tangent values? Yes. It's a piece of cake now. Fill in the rest of your tangent values. Yeah, quit your whining. Then you can check yourself with me or check yourself with your neighbor, whatever. For 5 pi thirds. Yes. All right. What questions do we have? We good? All right. Now, take your yellow piece of paper you picked up on the way in and fold it with the circles on the outside. And then once again, without looking at anything, so if you have your other paper out or something, put it underneath it or put it underneath your ISN. Don't be looking at your neighbor's paper. Just from your brain and your brain only, on this circle, I want you to just fill in all the angle measures. Just the angle measures. The angle measures. What are the angles? What numbers are the angles? The pi's, yeah. Those are your radians. Think about how to count from the horizontal axis. Yeah, don't let somebody look at your paper. Do the best you can. You can check yourself up there. Why aren't you filling anything in? You should know some of it from the other day and from what we just talked about. You got to pay attention. I'm going to bring this right back to you. Sydney, let me see that blue paper with the hand. I'm going to glue the hand on there that you need, and then I'll give it right back to you. When you're done, you can check yourself with me. If something was not right, you can fix it. It'll all be fine. We're learning. We're learning. I'll move that in just a second. Sorry, I'm trying to. Okay, how are we doing? Are we angle experts? Yeah, right? More so than maybe you thought. Okay, so now, once you've checked this, again, without looking at your neighbor or looking at anything else, put in all your ordered pairs. So this is what we did on Monday when we created the unit circles. So I still highly encourage you to watch the video, but you won't have to do the taping and the writing. You can kind of just follow along with it, unless you just absolutely wanted to make your own. I just thought that might make it easier for you because I know you have a lot to catch up on. Okay. You don't need help. Do what you can do. Get whichever one's in you can. Why are you looking at me like that? What's wrong? Are you okay? No, you just look like panicked or something. Okay, well, go ahead. Let's see what. No, I can tell by the panicked look on your face that something's not okay. So. Well, it got even worse when I asked you why you had a panicked look on your face. Use your hand. Use your hand. Use your all students take calculus. You got this. Don't put 0, 1 when you mean 1, 0. For the love of God, we can't do that anymore. Ding, ding, ding. That's what I want you to see. Good job. That's what I'm hoping for there. Okie dokie. All right, I know some of y'all are finished. Some of y'all are still writing. That's okay. But here you can check yourself. See, good job, good job. And I'm kind of hoping, I mean, if you're starting to feel like I'm sick of rewriting this because I get it now, that's what I'm trying to get you to, because rewriting it over and over can help you learn it. You don't want to have to write the whole thing out every time you need it, but writing it a lot can just help you see the patterns, because I heard a light bulb go off. Oh, it's just flipped. Yes, 100%. And sometimes rewriting it, no matter how many times I say it and point it out to you, you have to discover that stuff yourself as well. Okay. How are we doing? We good? All right, so once you've checked yourself with this, now somewhere outside of the ordered pairs, put in your tangent values without looking at anything else.
Can I put in the FI?
Yeah, whatever works for you, just so you know which angle it goes with. And one more reminder that tomorrow's quiz is literally just that. Give you a blank one, you put in your angles, and you put in your ordered pairs.
That's not right.
I'm going to show you mine with just the tangent, just so it's easier for you to see instead of having all that stuff on there and you can check yourself. Okay, so once you've checked yourself with the tangent value, the yellow paper is not going in your ISN. You have one more empty circle and 2 first quadrants. I just wanted you to, if you want to put it in your ISN with the blue paper that looks like it, that's totally fine. I'm just not going to make you put it on a page if you want to keep it out so that you can use it to practice. But you don't necessarily have to have something printed to do that. If you want to practice the first quadrant, you could just draw something like that. You don't even have to have a circle, and you can just kind of fill in your first quadrant, right? Once you've checked yourself, then get your computer out, start it up. And if you haven't checked your tangent yet, you have papers you can check it with. All right, have y'all done quizzes before?
Yes.
All right, so they changed their name. They're now something weird. Wayground. All right, so you're going to go to wayground.com, log in with Google, and you should have 2 little quizzes there. Listen, you can do them an unlimited amount of times. I'm going to leave them open forever. So come February, if I haven't been drilling you at the door and you're like, I need to practice again, you can jump back in here. Right now, the only 2 things in there are your quadrantals and your first quadrant. I had somebody earlier today ask me if I could extend the time because the question changed too fast. And I said, no, that's the whole point. You might be a little slow on the draw right now and might not make a great grade the first time, even if you know it. It just took you longer. But that's why you go back and do it again, and you will get faster at it. But you need to be using your brain and your hand. You just looking at the unit circle and answering the question is not going to do you any good at all. Right? Does that make sense? We good? Okay.